What's happening, YouTube? It's your boy Kite, and we got I don't even know how to say, an interesting topic, one that scratches the brain, something you may not have even thought about, or something you already thought about and just maybe need to shift your perspective on. So we're gonna get into that. But if you like the video, like the video. If you want to continue to see One Piece videos, like the video, because I'm not a One Piece YouTuber inherently. I'm just doing One Piece videos, and if people like them, I'll keep doing them. If you don't, it's whatever. Subscribe if you fuck with me in general and want to continue to see me. That would be cool. You know, it doesn't hurt nobody. Get yourself some good karma, all that stuff. But yeah, let's get into the video. The world's strongest swordsman versus the king of the pirates. Which one is stronger? Before we get into that and what I actually mean by that, let me talk about the thumbnail real quick, as you can see, because I can't just glaze over that. You have the world's strongest swordsmen and the pirate kings, and they're versus each other. Who's stronger, right? Let's just talk about the matchups. From left to right, you have Zoro, Ryuma, and Mihawk for the swordsmen, and then you have Luffy, Roger, and Shanks, respectively, for the pirate kings. Let's just talk about these matchups. Who wins? Now, you have Luffy and Zoro first out the gate. Okay, Luffy actually dog walked Zoro. I'm not gonna lie. I know a lot of people think it's arguable, but Luffy's just so much stronger than Zoro. Like, Zoro's best thing is his Conqueror's Haki infused sword slashes. That's Luffy's strength, Conqueror's Haki. So he's not gonna overpower Luffy to cut him because his Haki isn't as strong. So there's just no way in any world that Zoro would beat Luffy. I know that swords are Luffy's weakness, but you know, he kind of negates that with his super fucking broken advanced Conqueror's Haki. So yeah, I think Luffy in base form low-key beats Zoro. No shade, I'm not talking shit about Zoro, but that's just how it goes down in my mind when I really think about it. He won't even need gear fit and all that stuff. So, because Luffy at base can bang out with Kaido, we saw it. He was fighting harder than anyone. He is the MC though, but that's a different story. Next, we have Ryuma versus Roger. This one's a bit harder. Not just because we don't have that much information on Ryuma or Roger. We got a little bit more on Roger, but hear me out on this. This is my argument. Pirate King versus Sword God. Okay? Ryuma lived longer than Roger. I say that because Ryuma, his body, he died, his body was exhumed and then taken by Moria and turned into a pirate. No, not a pirate, a zombie. I'm tripping. Imagine Ryuma as a pirate and fucking One Piece would be found in a day. No, I'm kidding. So, his body was turned into a zombie, but his hair was white. That's the most important part. He had gray hair. But we know Ryuma had black hair. If you look at monsters and all like the early designs of Ryuma, he had black hair. So that means Ryuma died of, not of old age, but he died when he was older, probably 70 or 80, somewhere around there. He was old. So he outlived Roger. And we know that his hair didn't just turn white because he died, because we saw other zombies that had their same hair color of when they died. So Ryuma would have had black hair if he died when he was young, but he didn't. So yeah, that means, let's just say for the sake of argument, Ryuma and Roger were the same strength at 55 years old. Your strength starts to wane when you're about 70 in One Piece. So once you hit 70, that's when your strength starts just going downhill and you're just not as strong anymore. We see it with Rayleigh and Whitebeard and Garp. Like, they just start getting weaker and they admit it themselves. So that leaves 15 years of extra work that Ryuma could put in to surpass Roger. If they were equal, that's assuming that Ryuma wasn't already way stronger or just stronger in general than Roger. Even if he was a little bit weaker, that extra 15 years, you could say he hit his prime somewhere around there, maybe at 60 or 55, whatever, and he just surpassed Roger. So I would give it to Ryuma on this one. So I'm going to say Ryuma beats Roger, and that's a win for the Swordsmen and one win for the Pirate Kings. Now, here comes the hard one. You got Mihawk versus Shanks. Fuck, dude. This argument is never going to end until we see Mihawk do something. So I don't really know. I can't call it. I'll leave that one up to y'all. As of right now, it's tied, one win for each group. So I'll let y'all decide that. I made a video on this, Mihawk versus Shanks, and I do give my opinion on who I think is stronger. Go check that out. I talk about Conqueror's Haki and the Black Blade and the X Factors and all that stuff. So if you want to check that out, it'll be linked at the end of the video. So let's really get into the video and what I actually meant. the topic of the video is the Pirate King always going to be stronger than the world's strongest swordsman? And if so, why? Why do we think the Pirate King is stronger than the world's strongest swordsman? There's a couple reasons. I have two. One is at the very beginning of the series in the Baratier arc, Mihawk runs into Luffy after he beats Zoro's ass, and he asks Luffy like, yo, what's up with you? What's your deal? And he's like, I'm become the Pirate King, as Luffy says. And Mihawk's like, oh, that's an even, loftier goal than your friend Zoro over there. Zoro wants to be the world's strongest swordsman. So I think that clicked in a lot of One Piece fans' heads and thought, oh, that means world's strongest swordsman or Pirate King is harder and stronger than the world's strongest swordsman, because even the world's strongest swordsman is saying it. But I don't think it's that simple, because the Pirate King is not an individual achievement. It is an award or an accolade bestowed upon the leader of a group. It's a group effort. And by group, I mean group. Like, you could have a fleet of 1,000 people. Luffy has like a fleet of what, like 5,600, somewhere around there, multi-thousands. Luffy has a grand fleet. Obviously, they haven't really done much, and help. But eventually, they will slide in the final arc and help him. So to become the Pirate King, just like Roger and all that stuff, you need a group. So yes, it is harder to achieve, but you have more help. With the world's strongest swordsman, it is an individual achievement. Any mistake you make, no one can pick up the slack for you. If you get sliced and fall down on the ground, no one's gonna slide in and block the fucking finishing blow. That's not gonna happen. You make a mistake, you die or you lose. Simple as that. That is not the case with the pursuit of becoming the Pirate King. Many times Luffy has failed. People came to save him. Mihawk said it himself. His strength is drawing others to him. Roger had that strength. Joy Boy probably had that strength. Does Shanks have that strength? Probably. So all of the people that were considered like Pirate Kings have that ability. So the Pirate King is a harder goal, but it is not a goal you can achieve by yourself. It is. I would say it's impossible to do by yourself. Even Rox couldn't do it, and Rox just stormed Marijois by himself, solo dolo. So yeah, that's tentative, man. You can't really take that at face value, because we know that individual things are harder than group things. Just in real life, that reflects that. Like, boxing is harder than football. I played D1 football. I know boxing is harder because you could get knocked out in the first second. All the months of work you put in are over in literally a split second. That's not the case in football. Like, it's a team effort, offense, defense, 22 guys, and then the same for any other group sport. So yeah, take that with a grain of salt. You gotta understand, the nuance of that. And the second reason, and perhaps the most important one, is the dynamic between Zoro and Luffy. We know their goals. Zoro wants to be the world's strongest swordsman, and Luffy wants to be the Pirate King. We know Luffy is stronger than Zoro. Most people know that. So we assume in our head, oh, okay, so that means the Pirate King is stronger than the world's strongest swordsman. But that's not the case. That's due to the dynamic between those two. The fact that Zoro is the first mate of Luffy's crew. The captain is always going to be stronger than every individual on the crew. That is just how it works on a pirate crew. There is no deviation from that pattern except for one person. And that's Buggy. Okay, it's Buggy, bro. Like, come on. Other than Buggy, we know his situation. There is no deviation for that. Roger, strongest on the crew. Whitebeard, Shiki, any pirate you name. Law, Kid, Bonnie, any pirate you can name. If they're the captain, they are the strongest among their entire crew. And that is no different for the Straw Hats. Luffy is the strongest. So, if Zoro wasn't on the crew, could he perhaps surpass Luffy? Maybe. Why is Zoro always weaker than Luffy? Well, because Luffy fights the stronger people. Therefore, he has the opportunity and the strength to grow more. His growth is greater. Even if he wasn't the main character and getting like plot, if there was just two people, the person that's fighting the stronger people is gonna get stronger than the other person. That's just how it works. So it's literally due to the dynamic, not because of the titles they're chasing. I know this because take a look at another Pirate King candidate, Shanks, and his counterpart for World's Strongest Swordsman, Mihawk. That is an argument. As I said earlier, we will argue that day and night. That has been being argued since the beginning of fucking One Piece, or the beginning of the introduction, but since we knew they fought. Why do we argue that? Because we don't really necessarily argue with Luffy and Zoro. We're just like, if people say Zoro's stronger, it's like, yeah, whatever. Like, Luffy's literally stronger. He's faster. He's got better hockey. There's nothing Zoro has over him. Different for Mihawk and Shanks, because Mihawk is the Black Blade. He's achieved the pinnacle of something. And we argue that. It's because they don't serve under the same entity. If Mihawk was Shanks' vice captain, then we'd be like, oh, yeah, Mihawk is definitely weaker than Shanks. So, yeah, the world's strongest swordsman is weaker than the Pirate King. But that's not true. We don't know, and we argue it because we don't know. So, I say that the world's strongest swordsman is not always going to be weaker than the Pirate King. Those titles don't correlate. Sometime in the past, the world's strongest swordsman was probably stronger than the Pirate King. Now, the Pirate King title didn't exist until Roger became the Pirate King, but you could say that, and the pirates weren't even really that prevalent, but you could say that if there were pirates, the world's strongest swordsman could in fact be better than them. Like, Ryuma was probably stronger than any person that could be considered a pirate of that era, just because swordsmanship and swordsmen have just been around longer than pirates. Joy Boy was the first pirate. I'm 1,000,000% sure that swordsmen preceded that. They came before Joy Boy. Like, swords existed. They were in the future land, that void century, that nation of the future that Vegapunk talked about. They definitely had swords. And if they didn't have swords, they developed from swords to the advanced nation. So, like, swords were involved, and other nations probably had swords. You had the 20 swords, or the 20 kings, or the 19 swords. So, yeah, swordsmanship is just, it's a rich history, and it allows for more potential and techniques passed down for you to just be stronger than other people. So that's like a little bit of headcanon, kind of like with the technique part. But swordsmen don't always have to be weaker than the Pirate King. Just like someone that wants to be king of the world, which is a loftier goal than becoming the Pirate King, isn't always going to be stronger than the Pirate King, because we know Luffy's going to be the Pirate King, right? He's probably going to be the number one in the verse. Like, there's not going to be anyone stronger than Luffy at the end of the story. Let's say that the person that became the king of the world in place after the government got overthrown, let's say it's Dragon. When you liberate people, they want you to lead them. They're like, what do we do? Like, we'll follow you. You liberated us. Let's just say, even though Dragon doesn't want this, they placed him as the king. And he's like, oh, fuck. Like, okay. Luffy would be stronger than him, I assume. And that is arguable, right? Just how, you know, swordsman, world's strongest swordsman and Pirate King are arguable. But we could say that in this case, Luffy's the main character. He'll be the strongest. He will be stronger than the king of the world, which is a loftier goal than the Pirate King. But Luffy would still be stronger than him. So you can't sit there and say that these titles correlate. They don't have anything to do with each other. It's not like captain and vice captain. We know captain is stronger than vice captain. Pirate King and world's strongest swordsman do not correlate like that. So they can individually grow or wane depending on just the circumstances. Like, Wano produces exceptional swordsmen. Over the last couple decades, not so much. Why? Because Kaido occupied their territory and their borders were closed. So the circumstances don't really allow for the growth and development of proper swordsmen. Not only because of Kaido and the borders, but because Kaido was actually like killing them and imprisoning them. So they couldn't even do anything in the first place. So that could also lean to the argument that, is Mihawk really the strongest swordsman? Has he fought everyone? Did he fight Odin? Why was Odin not considered that? Because Mihawk would have been in, what, 23 when Odin died? So he was an adult. He was probably Zoro's age right when Odin was at the peak of his strength, you know, given that time. So did they clash? Did they fight? Who knows? We just don't really know. So a lot of people would try to put Odin over Mihawk. You could do that. I mean, I'm not going to argue against that, but I mean, I still got my money on Mihawk on that one. But, you know, because he's got the Black Blade, and we know Odin was a true swordsman. Like, that's not the argument with Shanks where it's like hockey, and is hockey a part of swordsmanship? I mean, it is definitely a complement to it. Hockey in and of itself isn't a fighting style. Like, you can't just stand there and not move and use hockey to hurt people. You can stun them, knock them out, but they're not going to die. Maybe they could, because we saw, Saint Saturn blow someone's head off with hockey, but we don't know what the fuck that was. So hockey, you don't fight with hockey. You have to move your body. You have to either punch, kick, use a weapon, shoot, whatever it may be. it's a compliment, you know. And Shanks, we just don't know his, like, we know he's a swordsman, but whatever. Fuck, that's just a different argument. If you want to go see Mihawk versus Shanks, I made a video about it. But World's Strongest Swordsman does not correlate to Pirate King. So they don't, one doesn't have to be stronger than the other. I think a World's Strongest Swordsman can indeed be stronger than a Pirate King. That's all I'm trying to say. Let me know your thoughts. There were definitely swordsmen that were stronger than pirates. Swordsmen are probably innately stronger than pirates, but they haven't been due to the great pirate era that started because pirates started clashing and fighting and sharpening. Iron sharpens iron, and pirates just got stronger and stronger, and swordsmen got fewer and fewer. And so, yeah, that's why pirates are now stronger than swordsmen. But they also correlate because a lot of pirates are swordsmen, because swordsmanship is a fine art to practice, you know. But let me know your thoughts on the video. This just means like the Mihawk and Shanks debate is just still up for grabs, you know. But will Zoro be weaker than Luffy at the end of the story? Or will Zoro branch out from underneath Luffy in order to achieve this? I don't know. Probably not, but it could be a possibility. If I was Zoro, I wouldn't want to snake my captain, but I'd be like, I got a goal to achieve, bro, and I can't keep fighting the second strongest person, bro. I'm trying to fight the strongest people. I don't give a fuck if they have a sword or not. I can still refine my technique on. He could still refine his technique against Kaido. Kaido's not a swordsman, but Kaido has a motherfucking kanabo, and he has a weapon. He has haki, so Zoro could take that as an opportunity. Now, he did fight Kaido a little bit. He got blitzed. He did get a good shot, though. So just let me know your thoughts, man. I just wanted to say that the world's strongest swordsman is not always going to be weaker than the Pirate King. I'm going to leave it at that. Let me know your thoughts. Leave a like, comment, subscribe. I'm going to Tokyo, Japan in like a couple days, like a week. I'm going to vlog that. I might vlog that. Let me know if you want to see that. I'll post it to this channel, and I can either just do like day in the life every day, if every day I do in Japan, or I could talk about anime. I go to different locations, pull up to the JJK KFC or some shit. Shibuya, I don't know, bro. Whatever you want to see. But yeah, let me know if you want to see that. And I will catch you in the next one, guys. Peace. 君の気持ちを大事にしなかった私の頭